All right,
Hey,
guys. This is Mongolian Mindset, and today we have what's your name, brother?
Reggie.
Reggie. We have Reggie with us. We're gonna be doing a breakdown of him. So we'll ask you questions, you answer them. You don't have to go into anything that's too traumatic or anything like that. Anything you don't want to tell us. It's all about you, so not about us. We just asking questions and listening. But yeah, can you introduce yourself, Reggie?
Hey, I'm Reggie, and I'm glad to be here. I've been watching your videos. Like I have them on alert,
Mm-hmm.
so every time you upload, I always know that you do. So it's just cool to watch you do what you do. You
Appreciate
know,
it.
just played. I just played in the background sometimes, or I would actually watch. Eye to eye sometimes, and so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and you definitely introduced me to like a lot of me being in the typology world is like constantly like trying to analyze people sometimes. Well, actually, I come on and off of being interested in typology. I guess these days I'm very much interested in it. And then I would just like to type people just for the fun of it. I mean, I don't really put anyone in boxes or anything like that. I would just do it for the fun of it. But if I'm really sold on what someone's type is, I share them. I would say, hey, check out this type. I think this is you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the way you've done it, you've introduced to me the concept of interaction styles. I've
Mm-hmm.
never seen that before,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't lying when I said I got the book.
Okay, dope, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I finally started skimming it yesterday.
Yeah.
But I kind of just went. I was skimming and just went to the last page where they actually had a chart,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that was just like, wow. I definitely eliminated one person's type. Well, I eliminated my first guest of a good friend of mine's type. I thought she was ENFJ, and then I realized no, she's not ENFJ. She's probably ESFP. Yeah, well, anyone.
So good.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
dope, dope. Yeah, man. It's not hard. It just takes a lot of practice, man. Once
yeah.
you practice it and you start like noticing it, man, I can't even not just I go to a bar and I'm talking to like people and like my brain is like calculating like okay this is this and I kind of can like figure out people's type just like sitting at bars now because I've done it so much, but it's a whole team effort here. We got our two friendly, not so friendly INTJs here, Thomas and Shelly. Shelly, you want to ask anything on the spot at CMP?
Great. What do you think the biggest problem with humanity is?
You said the biggest problem with humanity.
Yeah.
The biggest problem with humanity. I think we don't listen to each other enough. But then again, I don't see it as a problem. I don't think humanity has problems. I would say that the way I address humanity's problems is listening and being with where people are. But I understand that to accomplish some things, you kind of like it's sometimes that's what it takes to really believe that what you believe is right and the other side is wrong. And the only way to really stick with your guns on what you think the right thing is to not listen to the other side. So but I don't encourage people to not listen to the other side. I encourage people to listen to the other side because that's what I do. Like that's my strength. That's where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that in some situations there's you just gotta just be militant and just stick with stick with your guns. But I guess when you ask me what's the biggest problem with society, I kind of come from an agnostic point of view where there are no problems and there are no problems in society. Society is just what it is. It's really just like what do you want, or in my case, like what do I want? Yeah, I want people to be like this or them to like that. I want them to get this thing or that thing, but I don't see it as a problem. It's just like it's just what it is. And so that's kind of how I see it.
Okay. How comfortable are you in social situations where you don't know other people?
How comfortable am I in social situations where I don't know other people? I guess it depends on the context. Um, Social situations where I don't know other people. I mean, I'm usually in that a lot. So let me see. Well, actually, no. Um, okay, can you name a common social situation? Because I guess I'm having trouble picturing myself in them, right now.
Okay, just say you walked into a bar full of people and you want to find somebody to hang out with if you went there alone.
Okay, well, I guess that's just a bad example for me because I consider myself pretty social, but or I would say gregarious. I would say gregarious, not really social. But a bar, I guess I wouldn't. It's hard for me to connect with people in bars because they're drinking and I usually don't drink, and I think drinking conversations are something that it's just not that interesting to me. Like if I want to connect with people who are in a bar, I would probably have to drink. But if I don't drink, what I would probably do in those situations is just try to mirror people a little bit, you know, and just kind of get what, kind of just get what's in their head and what's cool to them and just kind of just like be with it, ask them questions and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. But I've thrived in social situations that were not bars, but bars is just one of my stuff that I usually try to avoid. Yeah.
So where do you meet people?
Where do I meet people?
Mhm.
Well, I kind of don't. Um, yeah, you know what's funny about me? I don't really create a lot of I guess attachments. I don't create a lot of attachments. That was something I was talking to with my best friend about, which um yeah, yeah, I don't create a lot of attachments at all. So I wouldn't go out to consciously meet people. That's something I haven't done in years. I think I've been so interested in my own work that like it's very fulfilling where I don't really have to like meet people. I don't really have to do that. And it just turns out that my line of work has me meeting people all the time, but it's usually for the work itself. Like this shirt is that Sing With Me, right? I have this show on YouTube where I just ask people to sing with me and I have a guitar in my hand and the whole interaction is like 15 minutes and I rarely ever talk to them again. But yeah, it's just I guess I'm hanging on this part because it's like looking back, so many people that I know create attachments, and I just don't really do that. Just wondering why. I don't know. It may or may not be related to type. Yeah.
Pretty cool. Where do you see yourself in 10 years, man?
10 years. Yeah, a lot of a lot of the same things keep coming up whenever I say 10 years, even when I was asked this question 5 years ago. But I think I'm getting closer. So that's great. But in 10 years, I see myself performing concerts. I'd be pretty well off, like lots and lots of money in the bank, but I wouldn't really spend it. I would just kind of live off of it. I don't really donate a lot to charity, but I do believe in charities. I just think that probably my best interaction with the charity is if I were helping them raise money rather than giving them money myself. Because if I'm helping them raise money, then I'm at least part of the process. Like I'm sort of like behind the scenes, I'm seeing what's going on. And if I'm part of a project that is helping to raise money, I can use that time to assess whether or not the cause is worth it or it makes any sense. Because I know lots of people raise money for stuff and they just blow it. No one knows what's happening behind the scenes. It could be BS. And I guess over time, I've gotten a little cynical about charities. So but I'm really interested in charities, though. I'm really interested. I just have to be involved. Yeah, I have to be involved. But other than that, I'm really suspicious of them.
How do you feel about being told what to do?
I could be told what to do if it's something that I already want to do. Yeah, I actually have people in my life who I've hired to tell me what to do. But I wouldn't just step into a situation where I'm being told what to do. If it's not what I already want to do. It's like, okay, I want to do this, right? But you make sure I do this. And if I'm not doing it, then you tell me to do it. So I hire people to hold me accountable. But it's got to be something that I thought of, and maybe they could convince me to do something that I didn't think of. But that's a conversation to have. It wouldn't be like I don't walk into situations that have an authority. I haven't had a job in many years because of that. I just didn't want to. I just didn't like that. Yeah, yeah. So I kind of just do my own thing. Yeah, but it's important for me to be held accountable because my own thing could change so often that doesn't it doesn't last long enough to achieve any sort of measurable result because I'm changing whatever it is I feel like doing. So that's where the accountability is really important to me. Yeah.
What do you consider to be the most important thing in your life besides friends and family?
The most important thing in my life besides friends and family, yeah, definitely freedom to choose, freedom to be, and just freedom to just do whatever. Um, yeah, and I guess that's the reason why money's so important to me. It's not the materialistic aspect of being able to buy expensive things. It's just having the freedom to do whatever it is I want without thinking about, the tether of whether I can afford it or not. But then that affords the opportunity as well to sort of like think my way through things, even if I don't have the money for it. But that's what I've been doing. But sort of like it just seems like the fix all is just to be able to afford it all. Like if I wanted to do some kind of huge project in Japan, maybe to get instruments to little kids or something like that. Like I could probably figure out a strategy to get to Japan, or I could just buy a ticket and go. So I would say besides friends and family, like the most important thing to me is just freedom. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Just how do you feel if I was to fast forward your life to 100? What would be something you think you missed out on?
Something I missed out on. Something I missed out on. Fast forward life to 100.
You're 100 years old.
Was that? Yeah.
Right.
Something I missed out on. Probably like, yeah, I sometimes I think about this. Probably what I was saying before, just like um the whole attachments and relationships. I think there's value in that.
Mhm.
I just don't um I'm just I'm just usually not inclined to do that. But I know that at some point, if I'm 100 years old, it might be a little harder to make new friends or to meet new people because people have moved on and a lot of my peers have died. So, um, I probably would have benefited from having longer attachments, because that's kind of like how you feel alive sometimes, like when you know that there's someone in your life who has seen you go through this and seen you go through that. And there's only so much that accolades and money and memories can do if there's no attachment of those memories to another person. Then um it's almost like it never really happened, almost. So if I don't create some kind of lifestyle where there is attachment, then I might have missed out on that at 100.
Wow, dope. Wow.
If you could have three wishes, like anything, three wishes, what would those three things be?
3 wishes, anything.
Yeah.
um Very hard to answer.
I just laughing because it's just like he said 3 wishes. Very hard to think of.
Very hard to answer that question. Do I have to answer that question?
Yeah. As best you can. 3 things, man. You got 3.
Very hard to answer that question.
What is can you name one or two or three things that you don't have that you really wish you could have?
Thomas, can't hear you, bro.
I heard him. He said name 2 or 3 things that you don't have that you want to have, right?
Have anything. Two or three, two or three things.
Maybe a helicopter. I don't really want it, but it'd be cool to have one. Let's see here. Oh, let's see here. Maybe an art studio or something. I guess part of the reason why it's hard to answer that question is because there's so much to appreciate that's already here, and there's so much I can get as well. I don't know, like it doesn't occur to me to have any wishes particularly.
Really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like I don't know. Yeah, I don't really wish for anything really. So I mean, I guess I do because like I have certain things that I'm planning and hoping will happen. But I think part of the reason why it's so fun to have it is because of what it took to get there, not the actual thing itself. So for me to wish something and just instantly have it, I don't know. I don't think I'd actually like to have it.
Well, that was a good answer. Even though it was difficult, that was a good answer.
So there must be some kind of interference with your audio. Maybe you're covering your microphone or something like that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. But yeah,
Sorry,
I was just
can you
saying
repeat the
that,
question?
no, I was just saying that that was a good answer. Even though it was kind of difficult for you to kind of come up with an answer that was actually very helpful. Um, as far as what you said, like you're not okay with just just getting things without putting in the work, but you kind of like it seems like you enjoy the journey, or the process of getting to something, rather than just getting
He bust his ass right there with that.
Wait, can you? Sorry, Merk. Can you please repeat what you just said?
So basically what he's saying is that that line you just said, what it took to get there, not the actual thing, that is a progression statement or a journey statement. So that would make you a progression type, just with that statement. You care more about the journey than the actual outcome.
You know what's funny? I'm sorry to interrupt. You know what's funny? I never really thought of that part. Until you asked me the question. But anyway, please continue.
Yeah. So right there, I would nail you for initiating and progression. So
I knew you were gonna say that.
you already down the 4 types already, and noticing that your TFI user obviously it's important to you. Like you said, like things like I guess we're just gonna go. What's interesting to me that would be a TFI statement and also an interest statement. Interested in my own work. That's TFI again.
He also he expressed a lot of gratitude for the things that he has already, which would be more TEFI.
Yeah, and you said I think so. I forget exactly what you said, but you said I think I'm getting closer to it. That's a progression statement because you didn't really have a desired outcome. You felt like you were just getting closer along the journey. So that's a journey focus, progression, movement type thing. I do believe in charity. That's a TFI thing. Making sure the cause is worth it. That's TFI and interest as well. I do think I do it on my own. I do my own thing. That's a pragmatic thing. That's an independent type thing. And carry on. I'm changing anything that I feel like doing. Like I'm changing. Well, I think you said. I can't read my handwriting, but you basically change anything when you feel like doing it. That's a TFI type thing. Like whenever you feel like doing it. Freedom to choose, freedom to be, freedom to do whatever. That's a pragmatic thing. Pragmatic people like freedom. So with that being said, the only pragmatic TEUs, TFI, progression initiating is the ESFP. So yeah.
Well, I think you might have already knew that because I feel like at one point you kind of like you were almost going to say it. You're saying something. I think you were saying something about ESFPs or. So I feel like but then you didn't want to tip us off, or so you stopped talking.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was very open to me being another type that I didn't know because I know someone else typed me as ESTP once, but he typed me off of videos. And I don't know if he was very interested in the in the interaction styles. He came on typing me before I got on the call. So I'm always open to it, I'm always open to it because I could have gotten myself wrong, but as I was answering the questions, I really was answering authentically. And I wasn't.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think I was boxing myself into ESFP at all. But But I mean, as I listened back to myself, I realized a lot of the things I said were very much in line with how Merck was, typing people on videos, with the whole, especially with the whole progression thing. Because like that was actually new to me when I said I'm thinking I'm getting closer. And I said in my mind, I was like, that is probably progression. So yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So it was at first I thought maybe you were ENFP when you first came in and you started talking. I'm like, oh man, I messaged Thomas. I'm like, I think he might be ENFP. And then you kept going and you're like, I need freedom, I need freedom, I need freedom. I need to be able to choose. I need this and that. And then you start saying SENI statements. I'm like, okay.
Pragmatic.
This guy's pragmatic.
Yeah.
And he's informative because you're just giving extra context, extra descriptive, extra wordy. So that's clearly informative. And then with progression, automatically makes you a starter. Then being pragmatic, that limits you down to two types, ESFP or ENTP. And then you're an SE user and a TFI user. So ENTP is completely dead. You're left at ESFP. Oh, man.
Okay.
I was trying to think about Thomas, what do you think do you think he's subconscious or unconscious? What do you think? That's a tough one, isn't it?
I don't know, maybe unconscious. I think I might have to think about that. I don't know. I mean, he seems pretty humble. I mean, to be honest, like, so he's not vainglorious. So I think maybe he's like UDSF. I think he's unconscious developed.
Yeah, I think he's unconscious. He seems to have a FI parent there, more FI parent than TE.
Yeah, I agree with that, and more FI and FE, even some FE. So,
Can you explain?
Huh?
Can you explain?
So there's like it's like different ways to notice the difference between types. Sometimes people are subconscious focused, and sometimes people are unconscious focused. And essentially the unconscious focus are people who have pretty good control over their parent function. The parent function and the child function are on opposite axes. So the more you use one, the less you'll use the other one. But the personality types that behave like they're supposed to have their parent function like stronger pull than a child function, but they can do it the opposite as well, because they're on axis. So like, let's say for instance, Shelly and Thomas are INTJs, right? So they have TE and FI in the second spot and the third spot, okay? They're on axes. The more they pull on TE, the less FI they use, right? Okay. But if they're INTJ and they pull heavy on FI, then the less TE they will use. And then you will have INTJs that don't even look like INTJs.
Right.
Yeah. The ones that are FI heavy.
They can't use TE to get out of a box.
Interesting. So that would essentially make them an NIFI user, which is
yeah.
So then that would almost make it its own type, I guess. I guess it would be an INTJ's unconscious.
Subconscious.
Would be?
It would be subconscious and unconscious.
Okay, so the first one, the first example you gave is subconscious, right?
So unconscious would be one with a strong parent function.
Yeah. Like
Got it.
And then you have the subconscious, the ones with a strong child function. The child function gives people relief, so they actually like to use it, but it's not a very stable function.
Right.
And you could get into trouble using it a lot. It's kind of like, as an ENTJ, if I just start going SE crazy, like I'm not planning my future. Okay, I'm not using my NI to go figure out the best future for myself, how to get things going. I'm just having fun, getting things, just living in the moment. That don't sound like an ENTJ really, does it? But you will have ENTJs that are living in the moment, just going crazy, like doing whatever, but they don't have a long-term vision.
Right. Interesting. I have more questions, if you don't mind. Like, how long do you have for the call? Is it the whole hour?
Man, take whatever you want to ask. We'll try to answer as best we can.
Okay, okay. I will just need another 20 seconds if you don't mind.
That's
No,
fine.
take your time.
Right back. Yeah.
Damn, I should like clip that. That was pretty good. Me and Thomas have been working on behind the scenes on that shit for a while now. I'm like, I wanted to pull it out on Joyce Mean on the interview with Joyce Mean, but this guy.
Yeah, I'll be interested what her take is on that, like on subtypes or so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean her TI is like pretty pretty amazing. Some of the things that she's like when we interviewed her.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Joyce.
Like, like that. Remember when she broke down like relationship compatibility and all that? Like that was like a brilliant breakdown.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, got any questions, man?
Okay, great, great. So have you seen the video MBTI is BS or personality theory BS?
No,
Was that
no,
I haven't.
okay? So I'm not bringing a point from that particular video, but I did see a criticism of sorry, 1 second. So what happened is that I just got really cold after drinking water. So I just did like 30 push-ups and it warmed me up, but now I'm out of breath.
that was good, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so I guess I'm sort of in the conversation of how practical is it to really know this stuff other than the wonder of it, and I heard a criticism of personality theory, particularly as it relates to MBTI, is that there is very little predictive power. Like if you know someone's type, it doesn't necessarily help you to predict what they will do, because everything that they do is something that if you already know their type, then you'll likely try to fit in why they did it based on their type. So it's like a reverse engineering rather than a prediction, because you really can't predict. So with that criticism in mind, how do you think that personality theory is actually practical?
Well, I think it's practical on multiple different levels. I think it's practical because it at the basic level it helps you understand different people's needs. It helps you understand your own needs better. It helps you understand other people's needs better, and it helps you understand how to like negotiate meeting each other's needs, which is even with the knowledge, it's not easy. I mean, I can encounter things all the time where it's like just people talk past one another, or it's hard. I think it's hard to kind of act outside of your type. I mean, you can to a degree. It's things you can work on. I think there's a ton of value in it. I think that a lot of concrete people, like ESFPs, other types, they often kind of dismiss it. Actually, like one of the people who actually kind of introduced me to typology, it was a teacher, and she was an ESFP. And she was, she's kind of like you, where she thought it was like fun and interesting. She kind of like would entertain the ideas, but she didn't really seem to take it like that seriously. I have heard this criticism before that people, they dismiss MBTI or typology because it lacks predictive capability. Well, I mean, number one, the thing is that most people who criticize MBTI or typology, they don't even really understand it that well in the first place. And I guess my point of view is, if you're going to criticize somebody or something, at least like take the time to understand it before you criticize it. Don't just like dismiss it outright. Number one. Number two, typology and MBTI, like MBTI is underneath the umbrella of typology. Sometimes people talk about MBTI as though it's typology itself. That's just one branch of typology, and there's like multiple different perspectives out there. My understanding is that MBTI has started to include interaction styles, but that's only fairly recently. And as it is, MBTI only operates using the 4-function model. They don't use the 8-function model, so it's kind of behind the times. So I guess the point that I'm getting at is that I think that in many ways, MBTI, the actual official MBTI, is lacking. That being said, I still think it does have a lot of value, and I think, I guess, just looking at typology as a whole, I'm not so sure I agree that I think you can, to a great degree, predict certain things about people, or you can at least predict, like based on their functions and based on their interaction styles, how they might respond in certain situations, what kind of role they might assume. Again, this is like going based on probabilities. It's not like you can only predict things within certain degrees or whatever. But I think, I'm an INTJ. I know INTJs pretty well. I have a pretty good idea of what's going to piss an INTJ off. So I think, I know certain other types of what might piss them off, or I know what might make another type feel good. Or I know how to like kind of social engineer them to a degree, because you're giving them something that they're looking for, and because you're doing that for them, they'll basically give you what you want. And this is all just unsaid. It's underneath the surface. So I definitely think there's value to it. I definitely think that there is some predictive capabilities. So I don't really agree with the criticism.
What's funny?
All right,
As you say that,
let me give my response.
Sure.
So I think a lot of people just haven't really reviewed enough material on the MBTI material. I think a lot of people are just surface level, because once you start to get into things like Linda Barrens works or Dario Nardi work, you see a totally different side that everybody else is missing. And you're able to understand things from a deeper analysis. But most people aren't looking at that. They're not looking at interaction styles. They're taking shitty ass tests that change every time they take it. But like we said, your interaction styles don't really change. Like you knew you were ESFP, and what did we get? We got ESFP. Most people don't. How many people actually know about interaction styles and temperament and cognitive functions? Not many. And the people that do, they just spread misinformation and more misinformation and more misinformation to the point that it's trash. So, and when it comes to predictive power, I think people look at a way for it to be predictive. I think that they have to first start with themselves. Understanding yourself and being able to get the best out of yourself, and then try to branch out from there. It's like a video game. Like when you start a video game, you learn your character first, right? You learn all your character moves. You don't just go out and just try to learn every character move. It's kind of like it's like a progression here. You learn yourself first, and then you start working outward. And I think other people like get into typology and they try to work outward instead of like understanding their personality, understanding what the functions mean in their stack, and then going outward. I think they'd have a lot better chance of being able to use it for predictive powers. But when everybody's giving misinformation, how you gonna predict anything?
Right.
So much misinformation. How can you predict fucking anything? And then another thing I would say is that typology, your type is just what you come into the world as. You also have a big part of nurture that goes a lot more into other things, Nurture is a big part of your life. It's like 50% of who you came in the world as, 50% of nurture. So I think people aren't being able to predict people. You can't account for nurture. Like, how can you account for someone's nurture?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I should ask every time,
Yeah. Okay.
You know what their code is. You only know what 50% of them, but they have 50% of chance of doing something different, because of nurture and whatnot.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. So accounting for their personality is just one element. With accounting for their nurture, it's almost impossible because you don't know exactly what they've been through. So really, the only sorry, go ahead, Thomas.
Well, no, I don't want to interrupt, but I do have to leave in a couple of minutes. But I guess just wanted to quickly say that, I think nurture is something that is probably in the coming years it's going to be studied more. Like Dario Nardi's looking more into nurture. He's looking more into the subtypes. But just to give you an example of like predictive capabilities like of typology. If you're ESFP, you have NI inferior. Like if somebody wants to torture you, all they need to do is just take away your free choice. Or if there's something that you really want in life, destroy the possibility of you getting that, and you're probably not going to be very happy about that.
Okay, so now you're muted because you're covering your microphone.
I'm sorry, buddy. I don't know how much of that you got, but I guess what I'm just saying is that if you know somebody's type, if you know their functions, what functions are in certain spots. It's like you can use that to your benefit, or you could use that to hurt people. I mean, to be honest. So
Yeah. Okay. I see. You know, I'm very interested in if there was a book that came out that, well, I'm pretty sure there was one. I just haven't read it. I don't really read any books. I really don't. I mean, I've had it for a week. Yeah, I haven't. I only skimmed it, you know, last night, more so because of, you know, today. I guess I was just kind of curious of what your process would be. I thought that, so I'm not gonna say I thought that it would be that way, but I guess I'm just curious to see what would come out of a book that has a more practical procedure for how to deal with certain types. Well, I guess that book does have it. I guess the book does have it. The only thing is, okay, so the other thing that kind of got me to question typology as well, and I know, Thomas, you have to go, so I wouldn't be offended if you just cut out, but I'm glad you're still with us. The only thing, yeah, the thing that got me to really question it is when you typed Michael Jackson as INFP, and I went to CS and he typed him as INFP, and I'm just like, why would an INFP put in so much work into the sensation aspect of their show when they don't have SE in their top 4? How could you possibly predict an INFP would ever do something like that? Well, so that's what that was like. And then as he speaks with his interaction style, that's how we found out he was INFP. But then it's like, well, where's the predicted power in that, where you would see a life that is so unlike any other INFP? Is it because he's a genius? You know, that was one thing I considered too. If someone
I think what you're missing,
smart,
you're missing that he has an entj father, Joe Jackson.
Right.
Pretty much took away his free will and said, "You're gonna fucking do this." Right. And I don't give a fuck. You're gonna get your ass beat if you don't want to fucking do this. Right. So it's pretty much like he was forced into it, you know. He was forced into it, but at the same time, once things starts getting rolling, you know, TFI, man, feels good when people are talking good things about you. You're so great, blah blah blah. The fame, all that, you know. Yeah, these are attached to fame too, you know. They can't do that too. So, you know, I mean, if he was given a choice of things that he would have done in life, I don't think, if there was no Joe Jackson, would he have been Michael Jackson? I don't think so.
No, without his father, he wouldn't have been who he was. He would have probably went a completely different path. His father obligated him to follow that path, and then it worked out for him, so he just continued to follow it. But I think there are actually quite a few like famous INFP musicians. You also have Jimi Hendrix, you have John Lennon, you have David Bowie, Bruno Mars more recently. So I think know, some of the most, like, these are some of the most famous people like over the last few decades. And you know, everybody knows these names pretty much, and they were INFPs. And then you have Weeknd, who was an INTP. But you know, it's kind of similar personality. They both have SI Child, SE Trickster, and we like, who's bigger than the Weeknd? He's one of the biggest people out there right now. So, just so I understand where you're coming from, but I think maybe just number one, I think you have to consider that in Michael Jackson's specific case, he was kind of obligated to follow that path. But then also, I just think maybe you're relying on like misinformation or bad information as far as, or bad stereotypes as far as like what types are capable of or what types actually do. And I think, you know, in terms of like Michael Jackson's development, you probably would say that he's probably more unconscious or shadow developed or focused. He's more like he probably has more development of his SE because his father kind of pushed him into his shadow. I don't know if you really understand the shadow or shadow functions, but like you have your top 4 functions and the bottom 4 functions. So I think Michael probably has more development in his shadow functions, just in my opinion.
Yeah, probably super ego.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, if you want to, you know, go that far.
Pretty obvious to see that Michael Jackson hated his existence on this planet. So,
yes.
Because of, you know, that type thing. So you can just pretty much tell he's a pretty sad person. But hey, that's life, man. Anything else, man? Because we got to go, brother.
Okay, cool. Well, if that's the case, that's it. I appreciate you taking the time to answer all my questions.
Of course, man. It was fun.
No
Thank
problem,
you.
man.
You have
We
any
got the
questions for
group.
me?
So if you got any more questions, just drop them in the group and we'll try to answer what we can, man.
Awesome. Awesome.
So,
All right.
pleasure to have you
All
on.
right, man.
Thank you, man.
Later.
Yep, easy.